Dara, I always love talking to you. I never thought that I would be in a situation where I would be talking to you and you'd be the coach of a D1 program. And we aren't talking about your 12 Olympic medals and your icon status in the Olympic community. But hey, it's a new chapter. And I'm hoping you can give us a little bit of a debrief on this first year.
This episode of the SwimSwam Podcast is sponsored by Commit Swimming, SwimSwam's exclusive team management software partner. Since 2015, Commit has been providing coaches with swimming's leading workout management software. And now, Commit has team management software too. Commit wants to help you make the switch from Team Unify to a simpler, more powerful solution. Their onboarding and customer service team will walk you through every step of the way. Check them out at commitswimming.com to book your demo today. That's COMMIT swimming.com.
Yeah, it was a lot. I'm not going to lie. I mean, we came in and had started with about 56 swimmers, ended up with and divers, and ended up with about 51, 52. And Coach Bruno and I and Coach Chris Morgan, came in kind of like a little bit deer in headlights. Not going to lie, like I know what I want as far as coaching goes. It was just, there's so much that goes into being a college coach. And honestly, like, I didn't even know how to work the stopwatch. Like, the only thing I did with the stopwatch is try to go see how fast I can go, with the, getting under 0.10. But, I was sitting there and I'm like, I turned to Bruno. I'm like, I keep hitting something. And it's not getting the splits. Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, it took me a good month to get the stopwatch down. So the kids were like, hey, what'd I go? I'm like, oh man, I didn't get, and I felt so bad, but it's like, it was a big learning curve for me, even something as small as a stopwatch. I think I really adapted well with the coaching. I think there's definitely more I want to learn, and I want to be able to go to other coaches that are in my conference or other conferences that are very successful, and hopefully, shadow them and go talk to them and learn more, because, I feel like you only become the best when you surround yourself with people who are better. And, that's what I need to do, because this is new to me. And I'm not going to lie that I'm a rookie, even though I've swum for so many years, and I just want to get better. So that's something I definitely can improve on. Administration stuff, forget it. Like, I mean, there's a funny thing. So like Bruno, my associate head coach, he was like, okay, we're going to teach you one thing a day. I'm like, okay. He goes, let's go into Google. And I'm like, okay. And we're looking at the different things in Google. I'm like, ooh, meets. I go, Google already has meets. Like, that's awesome for swim meets. He's like, no, that's not for swim meets. That's Google Meets. And I'm like, yeah, meets. And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh my God. So you have to understand, like, I had an agent before I came here, and Evan, and he just did everything for me. I didn't really have to do anything. So now here I am with all these kids and all these responsibilities. So it was a big, big learning curve and learning experience. But now that I have 1 year under my belt, I feel like, okay, now I can really like concentrate on coaching and not worry about all the other things that I have to learn, because I'm learning them.
I don't know that I would have responded with as much raw authenticity that you have just now. But I appreciate the insight. It's I'm a little bit in the same boat. It's in terms of administration, everything has been a process. But you were hired because of your expertise. And there were a lot of coaches who had a lot of opinions about your stepping into a D1 position. And I didn't get that, but my feeling was, this is an athlete who knows how to go fast and win when it matters. That sounds like D1 swimming to me.
Yeah, there was definitely backlash for sure. And I get it. Like, why is this person coming in and, doing a job that she's never done before? But, one of the things I said to the athletic director is, I've probably been coached longer than any of your candidates have ever coached. So there is some truth to that. Now, am I great at coaching breaststrokers? No. Am I great at like distance? No, but I'm learning, and, it's not just about, being just a sprint coach. It's about being a coach for everyone. And that's been a learning experience for me too. But I think I've earned my stripes now, and I just have to keep my head down and keep, the recruiting going, and just keep doing what I'm doing. I mean, we had for this year, after they had a rough year the year before, we had 100 best times ever. So like, how can you complain that, and some of it was the kids that I had, some were, the distance kids, some were the middle distance. So I don't take credit for all that, but we must have been doing something right if we had 100 best times ever and we broke 9 school records. So, we're off to a good start. It's tough because our level is a little bit lower and we're just trying to elevate it more and more. And we're not quite there where we're always kind of, sort of be at the bottom of the ACC, but we're working on that. And the kids are really training hard and working hard and want it. And that's great to see.
Boston College broke a record at the ACC championships. But what was your place when you broke the school record?
Oh my God, the boy, so it was the 800 freestyle relay, and the boys were ecstatic and they won by like 3 seconds, but we lost. We were dead last. But it was just to see the joy on their faces that, I mean, 3 seconds is a lot for a school record, and they put the work in, they gave the effort, and it was an incredible swim for everyone. And they had best times, for their splits. But yeah, we still got last. But again, this is something that I have to work on with recruiting and keep getting faster and faster kids in.
Recruiting in a marketplace where scholarships are sparse and everyone is in abject fear over House versus the NC2A and rosters being cut down and more scholarships going away. What do we both went through the D1 program, and when
Right.
everybody, all the top athletes, if you put your 5 years year round, you have some talent, you get some scholarship money. What are you doing at Boston College about this? Because this is the topic in college sports.
Listen, there's 2 sides of the coin there. You got the one side where you feel so bad for these kids that have put their life and their blood and their sweat into swimming and have worked hard enough to get scholarships just to have them take them out from under them, and it's so sad and heart-wrenching to see that happen. On the other side of the coin, of flip side of the coin, you have a school like BC who doesn't have scholarships. Like, wow, like we can actually get, faster swimmers in because there's no scholarships here. They're not getting scholarships anywhere else. And they want that school like BC on their resume because it's one of the top schools in the country. So it's like I said, it's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, you feel so bad for these kids. On the other hand, we're reaping the advantages of it.
It's tough. It's you and I have very different experiences. My I was economically challenged in during my years being reared. I grew up poor. You did
Yeah.
not, but we both share this thing in swimming, and we both ended up in similar places. Although you have a lot more Olympic medals, but it was a similar path. But my way was made through scholarships and through charity and through my father never paid for monthly dues on a club team. We were the charity case. Swimming is a sport of privilege mostly, and our sport's not going to grow if we don't get out of that pathway. We've got to get out of that well-worn route. Are there pathways at Boston College where if I'm a kid and I've D1 times, but I just don't have it. I don't have the money. What are the options at Boston College?
That's a great question. It's been very difficult because like we had 8 female transfers and they all decided they couldn't come because they couldn't afford it, so we're definitely, that's so hard because, the men are okay. We have a lot, but the recruiting that we've done and the transfer portal would have opened, like 90% of them, like, sorry, we can't go there because we don't have the money. And so that's difficult. So I've actively gone out and have been, I guess, what do you say, hitting up donors and getting some money for our team. We just had a $1 million donation. So, we have that to work with. Again, a school like Boston College is an expensive school. So that's not going to last long, but at least we've got the ball rolling where, we do have money just for scholarships here. So, and the sad thing is that it's going to go fast, because you think, oh, wow, that's so much money. But with how expensive colleges are right now, it goes fast. So I have to sit down and figure out like how this is going to work, what we're looking for. Like there's a lot of variables that go into it, but at least it's a start.
It is. I think that we're moving into an era where the booster club and the donors are going to determine who swims and who doesn't, and who's great and who's not. It feels like the NC2A might become this semi-pro league, maybe, that we've always wanted in swimming.
Yeah.
But it is top of mind. That's something that concerns me greatly, is privilege. We don't want to be a sport of privilege, and all sport is privilege. But I'd like there to be I would like for it to be a meritocracy. It's something I'm really curious about is coming in with your pedigree, and then and stepping on deck for that first practice. And like you said, you're trying to work the stopwatch. It's what was that like? How did that sock slip on? What was the comfort level? Was there anxiety? Was your heart racing?
There was anxiety. My heart was racing. When you start giving the sets and the kids get in the pool, you're like, wow, like they're doing what you're asking them to do. Like you're actually coaching. And, I think one of the things that really deterred me from coaching when I was younger, because I did think about it, was that like, I would hate to be a coach who didn't taper someone correctly, and then that affected them in their big meet at the end of the year. And I didn't want that responsibility. Like I really didn't. And so for me, like coming back and saying, okay, no, I do want to try this. Being on the deck, you have to make sure that your story that they're buying into, that they believe the story you're telling for the season, and what you're giving, and the sets you're giving, and how we're going about everything. If they don't, that's rough on the person that they have, and I think for a lot of the kids coming in, they're like, well, like, yeah, she's an Olympic swimmer, but like, what does she know about coaching? And, there's just, and like I said, there's a lot of stuff I still need to learn. And I know that, I've gotten good feedback from, the kids. There were some evaluations done, and I got some feedback, and, stuff I take to heart that I'm going to really work on. But no one's perfect, and you try to do the best you can. And with the situation that I was given, we as a coaching staff tried to do the best that we could, given what has transpired in the past. So, yes, I was nervous. Yes, like all of the above. I was sweating, but you get into a groove, and if you believe in what you're doing, hopefully the kids believe too.
I would imagine, with your experience, that it's all about focus and intensity. When you're working out, the difference, but the difference between good and great. It's like you're good. You want to be great. It's bringing a level of intensity and performance and practice every day. I feel like that's the reason why you get this position. And how did you do that? I know that that's something you're like, we need to build some grit here. How did you communicate that?
It's a fine line, because some kids respond to it and some haven't. I try to talk about, we have, obviously in the college season, you have off season, you have weeks where you only get to, train them 4 hours a week, and the rest is optional. And there's all these rules and regulations. And, I write the workouts on the board. I'm here for safety purposes, but I don't coach them. And when you see a lot of the kids not show up, it's hard, because that no one's like you inside, but you want them to want it. And I feel like there are some kids that show up all the time and want to be there and are putting the work in. And there's others that have so much talent and they're just not showing up. And it's hard to see, knowing what I was like as a swimmer, and that I would always do more than I wanted to. And I was always, there after practices. And again, I can't have those expectations for everyone, but you would think that, as an athlete, you'd want to try to reach your full potential. And that's something that I'm struggling with a little bit, is trying to get swimmers to understand that you have so much more inside of you, if you just put in the work.
Dream a little bigger.
Yeah,
Dream,
exactly. It's
so,
hard.
yeah, so you're building a culture, and
Yes. Yeah.
it sounds like it's a learning curve for you, but it's interesting how you're celebrating, was it 100 PBs
Yeah.
in the first year? We're going to check that.
Okay.
That's an impressive metric, and also breaking school records. This is all culture changing. You're building that culture. Interestingly, you came into this position. This was a, it's a D1 position, but you're coming in and they had the hazing incident. You had to
Right.
change that. Is that something you had to address? Was that something that was on the table, coming in as the leader? It's like, hey, here's the law.
So BC did a really good job with that. They had classes for them. They, really taught them like, the consequences of when something like this happens, both physically and emotionally. And, it was rough on my kids. I'm not going to lie. And, there are some kids that really struggled at the beginning of the year and struggled all year too. But they're really coming around and coming into their own, which is great, to see. But I was told like right away, first thing, team meeting, do a team handbook. And, I did a team handbook of what I thought would be best and what, there would be disciplinary actions for things that happen and stuff. And listen, like they're college kids, they're going to do stuff, that's just the nature of the game. That's their age, but it's in moderation, and it's thinking about like, when you do something, before you do it, think first, like you have the BC name attached to you. You have your last name attached to you. Is this what you think BC and your family like want to deal with these consequences if you make this decision? So we've definitely had talks about that, but again, as I've gone through this year, I've learned stuff. I'm not like a punishment type person. I'm really bad at that. I never really did it a lot with Tessa. I mean, sometimes I did, but I was like, oh, it's okay, and I need to be better about putting my foot down about certain consequences when things happen instead of like feeling bad for the person. I think one of the hardest things for me was having the mom hat and the coaching hat and trying to separate them, because a lot of times a mom hat would come in and I'd feel bad, or and my coach, associate coach Bruno was like, Dara, like, you're the coach here, you got to take that mom hat away. But it's very hard for me when you have a kid to take that mom hat away, because you start feel like I feel bad for the kids, when things happen. So I need to try to separate that more.
Hazing is corrosive. It's just it would I think everybody's experienced it. Pops up from time to time if you've had a long career. But in the back of my head, it was always, if you've got time to do this, you're taking time away from being the best that you can be. It's
Yeah.
corrosive, and um, I think this your mere presence probably did a whole lot to improve any situation.
Yeah, I think as the season went, I started to put my foot down more, and people were like, oh my God, but I think we also were a little bit not walking on eggshells, but the kids did go through a lot and we were very sensitive to that. And so I think next year there's going to be a lot more like putting our foot down and not tolerating things as much. And like I said, like you had said, like really changing the team culture. And it's team culture actually is pretty good right now. And it's just going to get better as the years go on.
Are you are you really focused on the sprint group? Are these your lanes? Do
Those
we
are
ever
my
see
lanes.
is Dara ever in the corner with the miles and the milers and the 400 IMers?
It's funny. One of the evaluation things that was said was that like I don't go into the other groups. I know what I know, and I'm not going to lie that I know more. I mean, I do know how to coach, middle distance a little bit and a little bit of distance, but that's not my expertise. And I hired Chris Morgan and Bruno Darzi to be the middle distance and the stroke and the, distance coaches. So I try to get my hand in things. We will do where we have like a group workout together where all the different distances, we do a workout together like Monday morning. So we're all training together and then I'll coach them there and stuff. And a lot of times I'll see something from the other side of the pool and I'll go over and say, hey, listen, like your head isn't down enough on freestyle or where you're catching or whatever it is. Like I will see things and go over there. So it's not that I'm not ever watching everyone, because I do. I probably see more than they think I see. But I can't, if my expertise is in sprint, that's probably more so what I'm going to coach. And the other thing too is we will do once in a while men and women workout, and I'll take the women, Bruno will take the men, and then we'll switch, in weeks. So I really do try to work with them at least 1 or 2 times a week.
We are our experience, and
Yeah.
you've had a lot of coaches, you've had a lot of great coaches, and those coaches, that influence bleeds through into what you're doing now directly. Is Richard Quick? Is it Randy Reese? Who's bleeding through? When do you hear yourself say something and you're like, that's what they said?
I think it's a little of everyone, honestly. Like we'll be doing power towers with the kids, and some of the intervals I give, I'm like, oh my God, those are like Randy Reese intervals I just gave them, putting the water in and doing 50s and not just like one lappers or whatever. And so like there's definitely some stuff like Richard, every time I'm correcting someone's stroke, like Richard pops in my head because he was so focused on doing the technique correctly so you get the most out of your stroke. And so I see Richard there. And then there's Mark Schubert, who like sometimes like when he coached the sprinters, we did so much less and we got out earlier. And I'm like, oh, that's the Mark Schubert in me. Like, the sprinters are getting out a little earlier and everyone else is, mad because of that. And then there's Michael Loberg, who, he taught me more the physiology stuff, and Bruno. And, so I definitely have little pieces of everyone. And I think that's what makes my coaching a little bit more unique, because I've learned from so many great coaches.
Most athletes who are elite can say in a conversation among elite peers, 90% of my career was age group and development, and only this teeny tiny sliver was the Olympics, except for Dara Torres, who went to 5 Olympics and was like going to the Olympics the entire second half of your career. That's very unusual. So which chapter in your life as an athlete, as an elite, bleeds into this college culture and what you're trying to achieve now?
So probably more college, only because, these kids are at a school that is academically challenging. They have a lot going on. Trying to balance being a student athlete, is not always easy, especially with the academics here at BC. So, I know that they have a lot going on. I think it helps that I have a daughter that's in college that is trying to balance things. She works for the school newspaper and she does this, and she's rushed and, in sorority and has so many things going on. So I get it, and I think having that understanding when someone comes up to me and says, hey, coach, like I have a test I have to study for, I'm like, go ahead. Like I never have an issue with someone having something to do academically that gets in the way, with swimming. I just, that they're looking at the next chapters in their lives after college, and I have to make sure that they're ready for that too. And so I don't want to get in the way of that. So I would say probably being a college swimmer and being a mom are the two things that have helped me, be who I am and continue to grow as I take this journey with Boston College.
At the top of this conversation, you said you were making a joke and you were trying to shed some light into your experience, was that admin can really be, and admin's pain.
Yeah.
Everybody struggles with it, and we always get better with it over time, but it is a pain. What is there a challenge that surprised you in this first year where it's like, I did not anticipate that. That was hard. I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. I've got to think this through. Did something come up? And then you were like, I got to master this.
I think the hardest thing is all the Kara and Rara and all the different hours that you have to figure out in your season and in your off season, and having the calendar and making sure you don't go over a certain number of hours. And it's constantly being on what's called Teamworks, and being on there and making sure that everything is up to date and knowing all the rules. Like there are so many NCAA rules, like it's insane. And knowing that like you only have 48 hours before if you want to change something like in 2 days. You can't do it the day before with a practice, or there's you have to account for everyone in the pool and at training and mark them absent if they're not there. And we've gone over, like, because we didn't take people out of certain workouts, on paper. So it looked like we went over, like, so there's so much minutia stuff that you have to do. And I get it. Like, they want to, like, make sure that the NCAA rules, are being attained in every sport and are following the off season and the in season and how much you can coach and not coach. But that is really a lot because it takes up a lot of our time.
Sounds like a lot of admin. Sorry, that's what that sounds like a cold bucket of water in the face. I'm sorry you have to
Oh, yeah.
experience that.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a appreciate that feedback. That's good to know. If anybody's out there and they would, hey, you want to be a D1 coach?
A
Welcome,
lot.
welcome to the party. This
Yeah.
is what
And
it's
and
like.
honestly, like, I'm so grateful I have Bruno working with me because he worked at a club team for 25 years. He knows the ins and outs. He knows, everything about computers and just makes it a lot easier for me. But I am a work in progress. And he said this summer we're going to do one thing every day that I learn, new. So I'll be a little more, I don't even know how to do high tech. So, when you put in for the meets and stuff. So, there's a lot of stuff I still have to learn.
What was your experience in terms of like the marrow of the season? You're deep into the season, you're getting your rhythm, and you're like, this is like, I love this. This is why I'm doing this.
I think it was probably our training trip to Fort Lauderdale. We took a couple weeks off over Christmas and came back, and we trained at the Hall of Fame and in Coral Springs. And there was just something about everyone coming together, being in the warm weather, um, being on the beach, doing some beach training and pool training and being in the ocean. And it was just the camaraderie like that. And we played music on the deck. And there was just something that really, I think, brought the team together. And I think that's something that I want to try to do every year because when you go on a trip and you're there for a long period of time and everything's on a schedule, but yet there's times that you can go out and have fun or, hang with your friends or lay out at the beach or play football at the beach or whatever it is. That there's something about that really just brought the team together. And so that last practice we had in Fort Lauderdale, we had a kid, Lucius, do a get out swim, a 200 fly, just because he wanted to, even though we were done, long course. And we're like, okay. And just the camaraderie of everyone cheering for him, even though we were all done, and it was our last day. And I don't think anyone wanted to leave. And I think that was the moment where like, this is just so cool. This is really a lot of fun to make these kids happy and, to see them training hard and really trying to reach a goal.
It's with this experience, you had to have expectations. You're like, I want to get something out of this. Maybe it's just discovering something new about yourself. But what is it? What is it that you're on the edge of your comfort zone and beyond that? What are you hoping to get out of this?
Um, I really like, listen, like these kids, they had to deal with us being rookies our first year, the seniors. And I know things are just going to get better as the years go on and we understand everything better. But I think for me, it's like being able to give back to the sport. And, I do some work with the USA Swimming Foundation. I mentor, Michael Andrew, and, we have some stuff going on, but it's not the same as being on the deck and trying to help these kids reach their full potential. Like there's such a rewarding feeling when you go to a meet and these kids are so psyched about the times they did or doing best times or just the shock on their face seeing the times that they did. There's something about it that is just such a rewarding and satisfying feeling. And I love it. Like I really do love coaching.
Well, I'm going to ask you one question off topic because I have you and I
Okay.
have to know. You're a speed demon, and World Aquatics announced they're going to do 50s a stroke at the Olympics. What are your thoughts?
I think it's awesome. I'm so jealous. That would be the biggest word is probably jealousy because I could have done 100 fly, probably, 50 fly, 50 back, and probably 50 free. And it would have been awesome. That's my thing. You have to remember my first Olympics in 84, there was no 50 freestyle. It was a non-Olympic event. So, it finally came in 88, but, I had my ups and downs and eating disorder in college in 88 and stuff going on. So, I'm jealous, but I'm super happy for the sport. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Good talking to you. Will you come back and we'll check in with you as we
course,
closer to the next season?
Yes, Mel, of course.
All right. Good talking to you. And I hope to see you on a pool deck somewhere.
Awesome. Thank you.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam Podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam Podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.